struggle to think of something clever to say at the top of these videos, and I really have nothing because literally the only thing I can talk about ad nauseum is books, the contents of books, and what books I want to read next. And any sort of small talk that comes before that just gets in my way. So, without further ado, welcome back to the Gwendolyn Reading Method, where I read 200 books a year and we talk about all of them. Today we are talking about paranormal romance, one of my favorite genres. We have so much to get through. Let's go. Etched in Bone Book 5 in the other series by Anne Bishop, which is one of my favorite series of all time. I've always liked Anne Bishop ever since her Black Jewels days, which is an excellent fantasy series if you have not read it. Anyway, back in the day I binged the first 3 other books in 3 days and have been avidly reading each in the series as they have come out since then. Book 5 is Etched in Bone. I like that it pulled back the tension from worldwide destruction to a more personal human level story of interpersonal destructiveness. If she tried to keep escalating from the previous books, she would have eventually had to get into interplanetary war, which would have been a whole other series than a paranormal romance series. I always find it exhausting when series seem to feel it necessary to always one-up the stakes in each subsequent book. It gets ridiculous after a while. This book does not fall into that trap, and I found it refreshing and enjoyable. Alright, so one of my favorite author duos is Ilona Andrews, pen name of a husband and wife team. May their relationship last forever or I might cry. They have this series that they release online for free in weekly installments. I, however, tend to wait till each book is done and published as a Kindle book, and then I will gladly hand over some money to the cause. So book 3 in the Innkeeper Chronicles is one fell swoop. I just can't get enough of the concept of an innkeeper bonded to a magical inn. I just love this concept, and yes, they've been dragging the romance out, but things are sort of kind of starting to move along in that department too. In this book, she has to save her sister, and then Gertrude Hunt, that's the inn, must save an entire species. This is good stuff. Did you know that Jill Shalvis has written at least one paranormal romance book? Well, she has. It's called Out of This World, written 10 years ago. It has a whopping 3.18 on Goodreads, which is really bad. Rachel inherits a bed and breakfast, and she drags her platonic friend Kellen along to check it out. But once there, she's suddenly consumed with lust for Kellen. Is there perhaps supernatural reasons for this change of attitude? The answer is yes. This is kind of strange in many, many, many ways. But if you've read a lot of Jill Shalvis's early work, it's not as bad as a lot of the others from this period. Seriously, Jill Shalvis is an example of someone who wrote dozens of books before she got good, but now is incredible. Moral of the story, practice makes perfect, I guess. The Vampire's Fake Fiancé, Nocturne Falls, number 5 by Kristen Painter. The fake fiancé storyline is well trod, but if you can get over that, this is a nice rendition of that. The female lead is a librarian, which always makes me happy, and the male lead is not suave or instantly likable, but a bit stiff and curmudgeonly. A solid addition to the series. The shifter romances the writer, Nocturne Falls number 6 by Kristen Painter. Roxy St. James. Can you think of a more romance novel name than that? Roxy St. James is, of course, a romance writer. Recently divorced, she's looking for a change, but her ex-husband is not letting go. So she has no choice but to ask for help from her neighbor, Alex Cruz, who also happens to be a sheriff's deputy and, unbeknownst to her, a panther shifter. Yeah, this is not the most memorable of the series. Made it to book 7 in the Dark Hunter verse series by Sherilyn Kenyon. Our hero is a Roman, and the rest of the Dark Hunters are Greek, I guess, or something. Anyway, they hate Romans, so he's pretty much a cast out. Enter Tabitha, a human trained to hunt vampires, and unfortunately his mortal enemy's wife's sister. I'm hit or miss on this series in general. Sometimes I really like it, and sometimes I find it too, I don't know, cavalierly, how do you even say that? Brutal? This one falls on the like side, though. Jean Johnson cracks me up. She has some super serious badass science fiction, and then she writes the most ridiculous paranormal / fantasy romance. This one is of the latter category, The Sword, Sons of Destiny #1 by Jean Johnson. 8 brothers born in 4 sets of twins, 2 years apart to the day. This fulfills the Curse of 8 prophecy, which has something to do with never falling in love with a woman, else a bunch of dire prophecies come true. So, the course, they get exiled to this island with no woman. Of course, the entire series is about how women end up on the island. In the first one, Kelly is rescued from Earth and pulled into their other dimension after she is accused of witchcraft and is being burned alive, as you do. So that's how she ends up on the island. The first half of this book is atrocious, the second half not half bad. Overall, I'm mostly just really amused that they end up saving the day with housework. Truly, you have to read this to believe it. Book 2 in the Sons of Destiny series by Jean Johnson, The Wolf. So, there's this magic fantasy land with a prophecy that says these 8 brothers will bring disaster if they ever fall in love. We already went through brother #1, so now we're on to brother #2, Wolfer. Yes, Wolfer. Alice has been in love with Wolfer since they were wee, but she had to go live with her evil uncle Broger, so they haven't seen each other in a long while. But then she escapes and shows up on the island. And then what happens, you might want to ask, but you really shouldn't. This book was boring. The first book was cute, even if it was rather strange. This second book, though, just dragged. It is not worth the read. Continuing on in one of my favorite ridiculously titled series, we have Chance for Hire's Bears for Hire #6 by T.S. Joyce. In this one, Emily Vega has been raised to hate all things wear and is lethally trained to kill them. Then she meets Chance Dawson, sexy werewolf, and he changes her mind. The description in Goodreads says little by little, but at only 167 pages, her decision to turn her back on everything she's ever been taught was gonna make it mega super quick, which leaves you with mega whiplash. But I did like the ending to this, so okay, I guess. So, T.S. Joyce has a lot of series set in the same universe, but focusing on different shifter crews, as she calls them. Bears for Hire was the first set I read, but I also started on Greyback Bears with Greyback Bear. Matt needs a mate before his broken bear literally drives him insane. Enter Wilhelmina Madden. What a name. What can I say? T.S. Joyce is a guilty pleasure of mine. Still a bigger fan of the Bears for Hire series, but not complaining. Book 2, Greyback Alpha Bear. I know these names are just genius. Genius, I tell you. Creed Barnett, her character names too are also genius. Creed Barnett runs the Greyback Bears crew, and he's got no time for a mate, you hear? Then Gia, who was in book 1 as a pseudo bad guy, shows back up in his life, but this time she's the romantic lead in this book. T.S. Joyce pulls some gymnastics to make that work. Gia's life is kinda in ruins, and she has nowhere else to go. This is not T.S. Joyce's best series, and this was just okay. And the cover, oh my god, the cover! Is that even in any way, shape, or form attractive? Nope, nope, nope. Book 3, Greyback Ghost Bear. Georgia Ames is a park ranger. The description is that she's tough as nails, but I really didn't see any proof of that in this book. She's scared of bears, so of course we get Jason Traeger, shifter whose inner bear is on the brink of going mad. That's a consistent theme in all these books. They're always going mad, and then somehow end, and probably her life is in danger and he has to rescue her, blah, 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 blah. I like the fact that she was a park ranger and that's about it. Not my favorite T.S. Joyce book. Moonshadow, the first book in a spin-off series from the Harrison's Elder Races series. This manages to feel clearly like a different series with its own perspective. Sophie is a witch consultant for the LAPD, and she gets shot. Which, of course, as soon as they say LAPD, I know they're gonna get shot in the big bad city and then leave it all behind. It's inevitable. Okay, so she heads off to the UK where she gets entangled with a fairy knight. I really like the setting, especially the old house sitting between dimensions. This series has a lot of potential. Unleashed, book 1 in the Amovio Legends series by Sarah Humphries. This is in the time-honored romance tradition of meeting a fantasy lover in your dreams, only to have them turn out to be real, of course. Quick takeaway on this book, not bad, but a little forgettable. Fury, New Species, #1 by Lauren Donor. So as the series title indicates, a new species is created by splicing human and animal DNA. Elle is working undercover to help expose the illegal experiments. But once the new species is freed, they are not quick to trust someone who they saw working with their captors. The world building on this is actually kind of interesting, but the book has some troubling problems with duress and consent that I really cannot get over. So let's talk about Beck McMaster. She's one of my favorite steampunk paranormal authors. She's one of the very few good steampunk paranormal authors. Shout out to Gail Carriger, who is the other one. Anyway, Beck McMaster has this series called London Steampunk, which is one of my favorite things ever. It's got one of the best explanations for why people would still be wearing Victorian style clothing. See, it's because when you're a human living around vampires, you're gonna want to cover up your neck and wrists as much as possible, which I can buy. Beck McMaster now has a spin-off series from London Steampunk called The Blue Blood Conspiracy. First book is called Mission Improper. The plot summary is: entire families have gone missing in the East End. Caleb Burns receives an invitation to join the Company of Rogues as an undercover agent. He jumps at the chance to find out who or what is behind the disappearances. He usually prefers to work alone, but the opportunity here is too good to resist. One little problem: he's partnered with Ingrid Miller, and she's Werwolfen, werewolf. And she won a private bet against him a year ago, so he kinda has a little score to settle with her. Soon they're chasing whispered rumors of a secret project gone wrong and a monster that just might be more dangerous than either of them combined. The only way to find out more is to go undercover among the blue blood elite, but then their hunt uncovers a mysterious conspiracy, and Burns and Ingrid must set aside their age-old rivalry if they have any chance at surviving, ladies and gentlemen. Mission Improper by Beck McMaster. My verdict? Just not getting quite the same magic as her original London Steampunk series, but this book picks up pretty well in the second half, so it wasn't half bad. This book gets a like from me, but not a love. Okay, so Beck McMaster is also stepping away from her steampunk roots and is trying a post-apocalyptic paranormal series called Burned Lands. Book 1, Nobody's Hero, a world where dead things don't stay dead and humans become not human. Still, the biggest danger remains groups of other humans trying to take other humans' stuff. Riley gets kidnapped by this guy who is not totally human, who wants to use her as leverage to get revenge on his old friend. So, in essence, Beck McMaster does the whole "he's a vicious he-man" to her in the beginning, but a gentle lamb with her by the end thing. It just seems like a bad way to pick a man. It is a trope I wish would die a death sooner rather than later in romance, but still remains the unfortunate standard in these books. Otherwise, good characters, though that's pretty typical for Beck McMaster. Moving on to The Sins of Night by Sherilyn Kenyon. This is book 8 in the Dark Hunterverse, which is a series I have a love-hate relationship with. Book 1 I kind of really loved, like a lot, but then the rest of them I've either kind of liked or just really didn't like. I haven't been as passionately in love with this series as, say, with Nalini Singh's Side Changeling series, so I wasn't sure what I was going to think when I started on this book, which again is Sins of the Night, book 8. Its tagline is "Harm no human, drink no blood, never fall in love," which already the never fall in love prohibition is just so cliche. But continuing on with our summary, Alexion is the guy who, if a dark hunter crosses any of the aforementioned lines, he's the enforcer who comes in to deal out the pain. Now this is my favorite part of the description. I met a female dark hunter who goes by the name of Danger. It's not just her name, it's how she lives her life. Amazing. Really, her name is Dangeroo St. Richard, which really Dangeroo? Danger by itself would have been a less silly name, all on its own. But then the description ends with, "But in a race against evil, the only hope mankind has is that I do my duty. And how can I do my duty when it means that I will have to sacrifice the only woman I've ever loved?" Yeah, if you can't tell, I wasn't a big fan of this book. It just wasn't the most memorable of the series. My Goodreads friend Susan pointed out that the book's main function seemed to be to set up characters who show up in later books. But you don't really care for the characters, and I have to say, I agree with her. Not Sherilyn Kenyon's best effort. I have made it to book 8 of the Mercy Thompson series by Patricia Briggs, Night Broken. If you do not know by now, I am rather fond of the series, which has some of the better paranormal world building in it. In this installment, Adam's ex-wife Christy is back to cause trouble. Hint, she wants him back and will do whatever it takes to turn the pack against Mercy. What may be a bigger issue is Christy's other ex, who may not be human at all and may have the power to destroy, well, everything. I think they could have done more with the whole Christie marriage sabotage thing, but true to genre form, they had to spend more time on the action, which is, okay, I get it. And I still enjoyed this foray back into the world of Mercy. If you have made it this far, you are a hardy adventurer, my friend. And you must tell me what paranormal books you've read recently, so either A, we can talk about them if I have read them, or B, if I have not read them, I can add them to my paranormal TBR, which is in desperate need of replenishing.